Bigman, you're mute.
Good morning, everybody. We are back. It is the right side of campus. We're live. Had a little sound issue there. I'm your host of Bigman on campus. It's Monday, January 25th, 2018. Hopefully, you're joining us today with your coffee, your breakfast. You get ready for another Monday, another week, another day, another dollar. Lot to talk about today. College hoops, basketball, football, lottery, soccer, all sorts of stuff we got going on here today. Donnie Rightside, welcome you in. Hey, happy Martin Luther King Day, Don.
MLK Day, yes, celebration out there, all inclusive here at sportsbookraview.com, Jeff. It's what we celebrate here, giving different opinions out there, right or wrong. It's what we're here for. It's what MLK stood for, Jeff. Also, yesterday, how about that? 2 interesting games in the NFL right down to the wire. Not a lot of controversy, thank goodness, but at least we had some good action and some interesting finishes we'll talk about.
Oh, yeah. Well, great weekend of football, actually. Surprisingly enough, Donnie, some great football. Who would have thought? For as bad of a year it's been in the NFL, actually a very good weekend for football. So we'll welcome you in. We housekeep. We ask you to like the show, hit the like button, make sure you're commenting, and tell your friends about Sports Review. A lot of great things go on here. A lot of awesome information goes out, and SBR Picks is the place to go. If you're you're looking for the schedule of the shows, all you got to do, SBRpicks.com. It's on the right side. Every day is going to have the different schedule for the day. It's a way for you to go ahead and find out where you can find the best sports book. If you're in the market for a new book, basketball's coming up. It's important that you have a variety of books. You should already have a variety of books, but if you don't, sportsbookreview.com is the place to go. It has a link to the rating guide, the best books, the best bonuses. And if you want to file a complaint or need to file a complaint, that's where you go to do it, and that's how you get your site issue fixed. Also, link to betting odds. Go to SBR Odds for all that, and the forum as well. There's some good articles up there, Donnie. You already have some baseball talk up here on some futures, selling high on Xavier, getting you ready for the big college hoops card tonight. So let's get into the show, Donnie. We start, as always, with our morning headlines. Then we'll get into the NFL, which, as we said, was a great weekend. We start out with Donnie, a sad note. Over the weekend, Keith Jackson passed away. Keith Jackson, a legendary sports broadcaster, dies at the age of 89. He's famous for his "Whoa, Nelly" comments. Donnie, Keith Jackson, towards the end of his career, that was kind of when I was growing up. I mean, he kind of came off the air in 2006. I know you probably had a little bit more experience with him than I did. He was kind of a little before my time for the most part. I mean, I still listen to a lot of his stuff, but I was a kid. I mean, his heyday was in the 70s and the 80s. In the 90s, I was still fairly young. What is your biggest memory of Keith Jackson?
I guess just the analogies that he would put into the game just to make it fun. I mean, you see all the stuff on the montage, how he coined the phrase, like, Jeff, it's just common knowledge now. Where does Michigan play? In the Big House. That was Keith Jackson. Whenever you saw the Rose Bowl, you knew it was the granddaddy of them all. That came from Keith Jackson. When it was a big game, you knew Keith Jackson was on the mic. And especially when he called the game, that flavor he used, that down-home country style, "Oh, mama, he's a big boy down there looking to eat today." I mean, there's it's funny, Jeff, there's a lot of Ed Orgeron in Keith Jackson, the way he spoke. He just didn't get that dialect, "Oh, mama, give him the pancakes down there on the farm, and he's ready to go today." I mean, a lot of that stuff, which made it fun. You weren't that, straight-laced guy all the time. You had a lot of fun with it and called. You knew it was a big game, Jeff, when Keith Jackson was on the mic.
Yeah, I see here in his biography, he was a down south kind of guy. He grew up in Georgia, right near Alabama. So, you have that, southern twang to you. Did some time in the military. Really was kind of the kid that came up. You started from the bottom and, built a great career. I do remember the granddaddy of them all that stuff. And he was very versatile, as I'm seeing. I mean, did NBA, did the NFL, did Major League Baseball, college hoops, and also, obviously, his most famous college football, did the Olympics as well. So, very versatile guy. I mean, again, lived a great life, 89 years old. We'll miss his calls. And I do remember the biggest memory I have of him is 2006, calling the Rose Bowl, the great Texas USC game. He was that was one of his last calls. I feel like very very good one. Great game, and yeah, we'll remember Keith Jackson today at 89. Donnie, a big story here. This is not really sports related, but I wanted to bring it up because I think it's pretty amazing. Shane Missler, Donnie, of Port Richey, Florida. Have you ever heard of that person? Have you ever heard of that name? Bring anything to you?
No, I know where it's going though, but yeah, I didn't know the name exactly, but I know where the story's going.
Correct. Shane Missler, Donnie, is a self-proclaimed retired background screening worker from Florida. He's now retired because he just got $451 million richer. 20 years old, Donnie. Port Richey, Florida, was the lone winner of the January 5th Mega Millions Powerball, whatever it's called. He decided to take the lump sum payment, Donnie, of, get this, he's going to walk away $281,200,000. Nice little payday for Shane Missler. That's dangerous, giving 20-year-old over $280 million. But according to the article, he's got some attorneys, and they set him up with a little company. And Donnie, he says that he's going to use the money to buy a new home, take care of a variety of passions that he has, help his family, and cement the path financial success so he can leave a legacy far into the future. I don't know if he wrote that or someone else wrote that, but if he wrote that, I got to feel pretty confident in the kid that he'll go out and do good things with the money. But how about that? Takes $5, turns it into $280 million. Nice little score there. Good for him. It's nice seeing it. Some kid that'll actually benefit from it and use it. Donnie, let me ask you, what would be the first thing? Let's say today at 11 p.m. you find out you won $280 million. What would be the first thing you would buy?
First thing you buy, I mean, you're probably heading out to the car dealership, right? You got to get some, spanking new wheels out there. Maybe one for the wife, maybe one for yourself. Then you start saying, well, I might need an SUV. I mean, you're probably going out maybe, higher end, like that Rolls Royce, Bentley. You know what I mean? You got to get a show off car, right? Right away.
I'm going to tell you, bruv, you would never see me again. Okay, because when you make $280 million, you're a marked fucking man, especially where I live. Okay?
You would be right, but you would be doing podcasts every day. You would be doing podcasts every day.
I would probably, but I'd buy Sports Review. I would go to Zach and I would say, listen, Zach, what do you want for this company? Because I know there's a price tag. So what do you want for it? But no, I got to be honest, Donnie. I would have to take a long time and go away from this is like anything else.
Like one thing, like you're a little bit older than this kid. Obviously, I'm a lot older than this kid. The one thing I do feel bad for is I actually like the stories that I'm hearing coming out because it sounds like the kid has a head on his shoulders. But when you get this type of money at 20 years old, I mean, money's not the root of all evils because you could do a lot of good stuff with it, have a lot of fun and preserve yourself. But at the age of 20, it's one of those things where, like, I hope he knows what he's doing. And in the meantime, because his family and friends, Jeff, they will eat him alive starting right now, the minute that he says he's that millionaire, because they all going to have their hand out and they all think it's like, well, you got $281 million. I'm your parents. I want a house in Hawaii. I want a house in Florida. I want a couple cars, and I want like $15 million cash tomorrow. How far does it go down? Is it your sisters? Is it your half sisters? Is it your cousins? Is it your second cousins? Is it the people that are going to call your house daily saying my kid needs a kidney transplant? We have no money. She's going to die tomorrow. Because everything from all outside sources are going to start to eat at this kid. I just hope that, everything is in line. He has a good family because they are going to eat him alive at that age.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Again, I mean, I know, I would take some time and I would go away. I would leave. I would decide what I'm going to do with it. Listen, I don't know the kid's family situation, but you're right. It is a shame because he's going to have friends he never knew he had. Hey, dude, I remember you. Remember me in high school? We were good friends. Well, no, I don't remember you, but yeah, hey, listen, can I get a couple million? I mean, come on, man. You got 280. It's all good. It's like when you have cigarettes, Donnie. Like you're a smoker. You go out in the hood and like you walk up, go to the barbershop. Yo, can I get a cigarette? Yeah, all right. Hey, yo, can I get a cigarette? Before you know it, you're out of cigarettes.
You got to hire like a force. It's one of the things. I know a lot of people. You can have the option. I'm not so sure anymore if you're even allowed to have the option of just being a silent winner. because it looks like part of that marketing is when you win, they want to parade you around so people see who wins.
Yeah.
And, oh my goodness, you can win because, how many times people have that conspiracy theory? Powerball now, $1.4 billion. Oh, one winning ticket and it's anonymous. Whoa, people start getting, it's almost like you have to come out and say, yes, this was me, because that's one of the validation parts. It's a shame because you're right. Everybody knows. I remember growing up in 7th and 8th grade, somebody hit I believe in New Jersey, the pick six, which was a lot of money back then in the 90s, was, I don't know, $1.7 million. But at the granddaughter, who the grandfather who won it, she said every day, Jeff, it was literally the phone would ring off the hook with people. You need to invest in this. You need to do schemes in this. You need to pay for this. How about condominiums here? How about, you buy this land? It was every single day a nonstop barrage.
I remember when I was younger, Donnie, coming up, we had, obviously if you go to Catholic church, you're familiar with what I'm talking about. It seems like everyone knows everyone. I mean, you're the fellow parishioners and stuff. There was a guy that worked for the Catholic church that I went to. He's like a maintenance man. He went and won like $2 million in Atlantic City on like a slot machine. The paper did a story on him. Everybody knew who he was. I think in like a year or two, he had been broke. He was broke. Like, you really, I mean, that's not a ton of money either, but when you're like this kid, I hope in 30, 40 years he's some humanitarian and he does all sorts of good things. Because listen, you can be who you want when you don't have money, but when you have money, you become almost different. So we'll see how it ends. But good for that kid, 20 years old. Nice life. And don't be like these idiots on Instagram that are like, hey, like this profile and I'll give you $1,000.
Yeah.
I hope I don't see that from this kid.
Maybe Jeff, good question. Does he get the money wired into his PayPal account so he can retweet it and say, I have $250 million. If the Eagles win on Sunday, I'll give everybody retweets at $25.
I'm reading here, according to the story, he has 6 brothers and sisters.
Oh, boy.
That's not good. Hopefully they're good people. We move on, Donnie. The last headline today, and then we'll get into some other things. Big loss this day for Manchester City. They lose 31 straight, Donnie, without a loss. They many people, including myself, thought that they would run the table in the Premier League. They had been unstoppable, but they headed into Anfield yesterday and got their teeth caved in against Liverpool 4-3. Donnie, did you know this? And when you heard about it, did you care?
I did not. I just thought it was interesting that I know it was what was the money line, Jeff? Plus 120, plus 140 for Man City in that game?
Yeah, 120 plus 125, yeah.
But by the way, I do have to give a little bit of props. When Man City won the Premier League a couple years back, Jeff, and the way they won it, I remember laying in bed, I believe it was a Sunday morning before I was actually getting up when I had a real job back then, and watching that game and the way they came back in that game and scored that late goal. That was a lot of fun. And look, sometimes you have to relate it to things like, we're Eagles fans. We've never seen a Super Bowl. I can imagine something like that happening where the Eagles get to the Super Bowl and win it late on some freak play or something like that. I like big spots and big moments. I've always had a little soft spot, Jeff, for Man City because for a long time before they got the new ownership, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, Manchester United was the big boy always beating up on the little brother, correct?
Yes, Manchester City's was a small club for most of the time. They went out and got some Middle East money. They got some investors.
Real money. Yeah.
Donnie, do you happen to remember? You're gonna get tested here. Do you happen to remember who Manchester City had to beat that day to basically win the Premier League?
No, I do not. I don't remember. I do not remember.
Queens Park Rangers. QPR.
QPR.
Yes. But yes, you're right. There's actually several documentaries about that because at the time United was playing at the same time, and it was basically QPR took a big lead, and they had to come back within like 10 minutes. It was an amazing day if you like the Premier League. But yes, thought I'd mention it. Manchester City loses yesterday. They kind of get it off their back now, though. They have a loss. They're still the best team in the world, in my opinion. But I got to tell you, Donnie, Liverpool is pretty good. They're pretty good attacking right now. So definitely an interesting result there. Not a huge upset though. Liverpool beating City is not a big deal. Donnie, we move on. It's football time. Let's recap what happened yesterday. 4 games, actually over the weekend. 4 games, 4 results, and we start out with the Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie, the first game of the weekend, a game that we were both at, we both saw. And you know, we talked about it. I mean, listen, the Philadelphia Eagles were underrated. I all week didn't think they could win. I really didn't. Um, I think a lot of us were apprehensive to think that Nick Foles could perform that way, and he did. I mean, he was very good, particularly in the second half. And I like the fact that they tailored the game plan to Nick Foles. They didn't make it too difficult. A lot of out routes and screens, and quick throws, little up tempo kind of stuff. It really worked for Nick Foles. I thought the offensive line was absolutely fantastic. I thought defensively they were absolutely fantastic. And you look at the Atlanta Falcons, Donnie, they scored 10 points. The one touchdown was aided and set up by a muffed punt. Um, you know, I think, and that's for me where we'll get into next week, what happens next week, but a really great win by the Eagles. No one thought they could get the job done, and they shut the naysayers up, Donnie, right then.
Yeah, I mean, like if anybody who's watched the show for weeks on end, once Wentz went down, and they started to re-prepare, got the win against the Giants, got the win against Oakland, ugly, and of course, rested their starters versus the Dallas Cowboys. I was one of those staunch defenders out there. Not to say the Eagles could get to the Super Bowl, not to even say the Eagles would win the NFC or even make the Super Bowl on that end, but the first game sets up so well for teams at home coming off the bye that it's hard to win on the road in the NFL, as you saw. It took 45 points for the Jacksonville Jaguars to scrape by the Pittsburgh Steelers. If the Steelers didn't have some dumb coaching, which we'll talk about in a little bit, the Steelers probably win that football game also. But just breaking it down on its edge, when you have to look at matchups out there, the Eagles are a physically dominating home team. And all you heard all week, every sports prognosticator, everything I saw, when they had the panels on ESPN, all 5 people, all Atlanta Falconed up. I mean, the line was only 3. Could I see Matt Ryan? Yes. Is he a better quarterback than Nick Foles? Yes, he is. But you still have to win on the road, and it's another dome team coming into Philly this week. We'll get in that later on, but it's a lot of disrespect, as if, getting 13 wins that the Philadelphia Eagles had, or whatever it would be, that you would come into this game like you're the Cleveland Browns. Like you have no idea how to win. Like you don't have a good coaching staff. Nobody cares about anything. You saw the way the team came out. Jim Schwartz at home this year, a dominating performance every single week. You can't score on the Philadelphia Eagles at home, Jeff.
No, you're totally right. And I got to tell you, Nick Foles was exquisite. I mean, he was absolutely fantastic. He had a throw or two that was poor, but I mean, overall, 23 for 30. He should throw the football 30 times. That should be the absolute maximum. Put the ball in the hands of the running backs. 32 rushes. Not a great day on the ground for the Eagles. I mean, only about 100 yards, but still, I mean, it just seemed like when they needed a first down, they were able to get it. And look, I mean, I will give the unsung hero award to the offensive line. I thought they were fantastic. They allowed Nick Foles time. Vaitai was really good. I mean, Stefan Wisniewski's been a real mirage he's been great for this team. Without him, I don't know where they'd be. Just every offensive lineman has played absolutely fantastic. And this has been with Jason Peters out. So, and you look at all the things that they did. I mean, they had some mistakes in the game. I mean, the fumbles were something that if that happens this week, they're not going to win. They fumbled the ball 4 times, they're not going to win. No one will win. But they got to clean that up. Can't muff punts. I mean, stuff like that. But I thought even with some of the mistakes they made, they were still able to get the job done. And you're right, Donnie. It is very difficult to come into Philadelphia and score. But a big win. The Eagles are moving on in the first game. I'm looking forward to this week, honestly, Donnie. I think after you look at the matchup, which we have all week to talk about. The next one, Donnie, this one, not a ton to talk about. And we actually have some breaking news, Donnie, out of Tennessee. It looks like the Tennessee Titans grabbed some balls this morning. And it looks like, according to reports, Mike Mularkey is out at Tennessee. I know he was excited to think that he might be given an extension. I saw they might give an extension to 2022, and then I'm thinking to myself, is he a fucking delusional moron or what? I mean, do you really think they're going to give this guy we all knew this was going to happen. I think he thought, Donnie, he reminds me of a guy that, he dates a girl, and he's way more into the girl than she's into him. She's out doing her thing, and he's out, sitting by the phone waiting for her to call. That's Mike Mularkey, and I think the writing was on the wall. They're going to go get Josh McDaniels. I mean, we heard rumors of that. We thought it was a good match. Mike Mularkey out, and after this performance over the weekend, you can't blame them. I think, Donnie, if I remember correctly, I think I called the score exactly. If you go back and listen, I said I thought the score I think would be 35-14 or something like that. This one was tough early, 7-0 Tennessee, but a big second quarter really propelled New England. Tom Brady made easy work, 35 for 53, 337 yards. Typical New England performance, Donnie.
Yeah, refs got involved in that game. I mean, you don't know how much it would have changed the outcome of the game because it's pretty clear that the Patriots are the better team. But I want to get back to the Titans, Jeff, as an overall organization. So let me get this straight. Mike Mularkey was coaching for his coaching for his life. If he didn't win the last game of the season, that they were going to be out of the playoffs, he was going to get fired. So he wins that football game, right? Amy Adams Strunk, who's the owner of the team, took over for Bud Adams, who's the late father who died. They go into Kansas City. Hey, he might be coaching for his life, and see what happens here. They pull out a miracle victory. And after the game, they say, oh, my God, Mike's going to be here, the ownership of the Titans. Mike's going to be here a long time. He's fantastic. We won again. We're going to New England. And word's breaking, before the game or a couple days before the game, extension's going to get worked out. Mike's going to be here a long time. We love the path of this team. They go up to New England. They get hustled and spanked in that game. And then this morning you wake up and it's he's out. We parted ways because we just can't agree on the future. When you run a billion-dollar organization or multi-billion-dollar organization, Jeff, and this is, again, like where you just take over ownership because your daddy gave it to you, right? Or like there's no, vested interest. Like you just handed this billion-dollar empire and you run it. And of course, everybody underneath is going to be yes people because they want to keep their job. They're high-paying jobs in the most part. You don't want to ruffle the feathers. But how can you have somebody sit at the top of the organization who's flip-flopping week to week on what you're actually going to be doing in your future? I can't understand that for the life of me. And it was bizarre world. Do I like McCarthy? Do I like him as a head coach? I don't like him as a head coach, Mularkey. I don't think he's very good. And I think they need to upgrade and go younger and, get some innovation on the offense with Marcus Mariota. But the simple fact over the last 5 to 6 weeks where win this game, you're coming back, coach. All right, you won. Next game. Win this game, you're coming back, coach. All right, we won. Win this game, you're coming back. All right, we won. Great, let's all have a lot of fun. Oh, you just lost to New England? Yeah, you're out. I just don't see a future with you here. I don't understand some ownership out there, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I agree with Steve Mapp. I mean, a lot of it is also has to do with Terry Robisky. I mean, they didn't call the game correctly. I mean, they didn't let Marcus Mariota work the way he needs to work. It just isn't working. It got time to move on. Need somebody fresh in there. I'm sick of the whole.
Like the game planning, Jeff. Like there's nobody. Who's explosive on that team? Like there's no you don't get the feeling that you could just drop Marcus Mariota back at like the 35-yard line and they're just going to throw dimes deep. Like there's no explosive creativity on that offense whatsoever.
Yeah, I thought according to last night even I saw reports that extension was being considered for Mularkey.
Yes, that's what caught me off guard. Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
And again, those are reports. They could be total rumor, but definitely I agree with the move. Time to move on. But listen, we don't have to sit and talk about New England. We know what they are. They're moving on. They're in the AFC title game. I mean, it's like normal. I mean, we might as well just put them there every year. Do we really need to play the season anymore? New England's going to win every year. I mean, that's just how it goes. However, the team they're going to face is a bit of a mystery until yesterday. I think a lot of us thought it'd be Pittsburgh. That rematch, Pittsburgh, New England, in Pittsburgh for all the marbles. Not so fast to the Jags. How dynamic have the Jags been, Donnie? 1 week they could win 10-3. Next they could win 45-42. That's dangerous if you're in New England. However, I think we saw the blueprint. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars, as I've said, I got one thing wrong, but I got one thing right. I think the Jags were a fraud, but I think defensively, I think they are a fraud. I mean, we saw that yesterday. You can move the ball on this team. I don't think there's any defense in football right now that I don't think you can move the ball against. They're decent, but again, yesterday they gave up 545 total yards. Pittsburgh, unfortunately, couldn't get any stops on defense. If they could get 2 or 3 stops, even one stop, they may have won this football game. So after everything that Jacksonville did, Donnie, Pittsburgh still, if you had 30 seconds on the clock, had a chance to win this game. Unfortunately, though, Antonio Brown didn't get out of bounds, and they had little time to do anything. But 923 yards in this game, 87 points. You wanted fireworks, you got it here. Very questionable decisions, though, by Pittsburgh down the stretch. I mean, you have some really questionable fourth down calls. Todd Haley, this is not a first thing with him. He has been a scofflaw at this, always screwing up weird situations. Then the decision, that, Donnie, we talked about might have been the stupidest decision I've ever seen. Um, you have 2 minutes and 20 seconds left, 2 timeouts and a 2-minute warning, and you kick onside there. One of the stupidest decisions I've ever seen at any level of sports was done by Mike Tomlin yesterday. What the fuck did we just see?
Yeah, you know what I want to see, Jeff? Because, there's a lot of hostile forces in Pittsburgh right now. Big Ben's been known to pop his mouth off. He can't stand his offensive coordinator, Todd Haley, at this point. And I'm pretty sure that somebody, I don't think Big Ben's leaving Pittsburgh, but I wouldn't be surprised to see if Todd Haley moves on in the offseason here. But I want to get to the crux of this because something's really getting at it. Because Big Ben, veteran quarterback, he's got a lot of leeway out there. If he sees something that he can change at the line of scrimmage, Jeff, he has carte blanche. I'm not going to say Big Ben. No matter what, you're not allowed to change his play. You got to run it. He has carte blanche up there. So on those 2 fourth and inch plays could change the ball game. Number one, you had a toss sweep to a defense selling out on the run, which ended up losing 4 yards to Le'Veon Bell. The next time you had almost the same field position, Jeff, and the same yardage distance, 4th and inches. You go play action pass and throw a 25-yard crossing route, which was incomplete, and you turn the football over. I would love to hear on the sideline where, Ben, you're 6'5", you're damn near 300 pounds, and Pouncey is your center, a very physical center. How about you snap the football and lean over and get this first down? Because we know, Jeff, that the refs are designed just, predestined to say, you know what? It's 4th and inches. If Ben takes the quarterback sneak and disappears into the line of scrimmage, they automatically move up a foot and give you the first down. It's automatic. I want to hear if those calls were made, Jeff, on the sideline where it's all right, quarterback sneak, go ahead. Because both of those plays, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, it looked like Big Ben with about 10 seconds to go sat back and changed the play or maybe was, dummying the play down just to make everybody think they were going to do something different. Because it looked to me that there might have been something else called in the huddle or called into his earpiece that he changed at the line of scrimmage, but inexcusable in those situations, Jeff. And if you take, I know you talked about the onside kick, which we were going back and forth with immediately when it happened. When you heard the announcer like Dan Fouts say, hey, 2:20 on the clock, 2 timeouts, you got to kick it deep. Everybody knew you had to kick it deep. And then you kick an onside kick and you get the 3 and out, Jeff. But hey, you're on the 30-yard line. Quick 45-yard field goal, and it's a wrap.
I don't get this decision. You had to get a stop, Donnie. Regardless of what you did, you had to get a stop. So it was either going to be getting a stop at the 30 or 40-yard line or back at the 20-yard line. Because let's be real. We all know that when you kick onside and you're trying to get the ball back, generally the offense for the other team is extremely vanilla. They run the ball up the middle, try to waste time, hope you're stupid, don't do your timeout thing. Hopefully they try to break one. It's not going to be a really good all. It's vanilla. They're not going to throw the ball. It's vanilla. I don't understand the thinking pattern. It was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And right, S.A. Dritch with a great point. And then with 1 second left, when they need to kick it onside, they kick it deep. I don't get it. I don't get at all what they were doing yesterday. If I'm a Steeler fan this morning, I'm absolutely disgusted and annoyed. Listen.
Now, what did they expect, Jeff? What did they expect? If they onside kick it, maybe you catch it in the air and you can run with it. But did they think it was going to be a deep kick? Jacksonville will return it and you strip the kicker returner and then run it back? Was that a higher percentage?
I guess they were hoping that it would go out of bounds. I have no idea. I have zero. I think at that point they were just like, you know what? Let's just go home. We can't win this. But again, we go back to the fact of if Antonio Brown would have just gotten out of bounds on that 3rd down instead of trying to fight for more yards, you probably would have had 20, 25 seconds. And then you're set up there. You just need a traditional onside kick, which isn't as hard as having to hit someone and then get an onside. So yeah,
2:20 on the clock. That's like something I used to be Andy Reid. Like the worst play I ever saw in my entire life from Eagles football, Jeff, is you're old enough to remember it. I believe it was 2006. The Eagles had beat the Giants with Jeff Garcia at home to advance to play New Orleans down in the Dome. Eagles had a lead in the second half, neither here nor there. We couldn't stop Deuce McAllister. There was about 1:30 on the clock, and the Eagles had 2 timeouts, but it was a 4th and 15. The Eagles had the football. They punted the football, and of course, they didn't get the football back. Just sometimes coaching say, hey, you know what? Let's just play defense if we get a stop. Because you're right, Jeff. You knew Jacksonville was going to be vanilla. Did you think that they're going to say, hey, Blake Bortles, throw 2 passes because we need a first down? No. You're handing off 3 straight times to Fournette, just like they did when they got the onside kick. That's what was going to happen, and you got the stop, but you're so stupid that you got the stop and they automatically kicked the field goal and the game was over. Unbelievable, man.
Portal service for everyone in Jacksonville this week. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Donnie, how about this? Before we get into the last game, you got 3 quarterbacks, Blake Bortles, Nick Foles, and Case Keenum. You have to start a team right now. Which one of those are you picking?
It's really interesting because it's what are you going to get out of it? Like, you got a Nick Foles. You have the veteran guy, not splashy, probably the slowest quarterback left in the, you got to take Tom Brady. Tom Brady's probably the slowest, but you take him out, like the most unathletic guy, but he's cerebral. He's going to put you in the right spot. Then you have Case Keenum, who I would like to say comes out of nowhere because he didn't show any of this. But then having said, Jeff, when you're buoyed by an unbelievable defense, you only have to make the plays that are like in front of you, and he does a good job at that. But the one thing I like about Blake Bortles is he's a dumb quarterback. But I guess if you have decent conditions out there, he can make plays with his legs to extend everything. I might be actually taking, how crazy it sounds, Jeff, of those 3, I might be taking Blake Bortles right now, Jeff.
Yeah, I actually have to agree with you. I think Bortles has the ability with his legs. All these guys are particularly dependent on other people making plays for them to get open, and then they get them the ball. But listen, I mean, we see the level of quarterback that these guys are compared to others. But hey, they're all in they all have the ability to go to the Super Bowl now. All 3 of these teams. It's interesting, Donnie. You look at the top 3 defense in the NFL: Vikings, Jags, and Eagles. All being quarterbacked right now by backups, or considerably close backups. None of those 3 have good quarterback play. Mostly, for me, I think I would agree with Bortles, but there are a lot of Case Keenums. A lot of people like Case Keenum and would pick Case Keenum here. Trent Dilfer won a ring. Correct. Good point.
Jeff,
all you need is 1 year.
It's a great point you bring up on that, Jeff, with the backup quarterbacks. You know how we used to all the accolades, and you hear about Ted Thompson. Oh my God, what a great GM he has. Well, Aaron Rodgers goes down, and that team sucks, right? Let's go back to Bill Polian, who's the almighty Jesus Christ of GMs, right? He loses Peyton Manning, and they go 1-15 because he put together shit rosters. Now look at the Eagles. You lose your MVP, probably the NFL. You keep trucking. In Minnesota, you lose your starters, 2 starters basically, and you have a 3rd stringer out there still rolling through. Why? Because they put together a really good roster out there. And the same thing with Jacksonville. Coughlin comes in. That team can't get out of its own way. And he goes, you know what? I'm going to build a roster. I'm going to bring in Class Campbell. I'm going to bring in Marcel Darius. We're going to draft defensively. We're going to lean on Blake Bortles to run and just make enough plays and get a hammer at running back like Leonard Fournette and make it work. You see what I mean, Jeff? These people that are GMs out there, they get so much respect because they have a top-level quarterback. The minute they lose them, the entire franchise falls apart like a house of cards because they're trash GMs. I can get off on a tangent on Bill Polian all day long of when you see him on ESPN. He's the guy, you know what I mean? Just getting back to, well, I don't see T.O. as a Hall of Fame player. You old man, get off the screen. You were built on Peyton Manning, and you have the number 1 pick. It wasn't like you found him, in the 5th round like Tom Brady. Come on, man.
Right.
I can't stand
right.
that.
And I also want to point out, Donnie, about Case Keenum. He was dreadful in L.A. I mean, he was awful. I mean, I remember a couple years ago, I didn't want him anywhere near the ball. When he was with Houston, he was hard to watch. I mean, it's amazing the kind of seasons he's had. I mean, obviously I don't want him to do well this week, but if they are to beat the Eagles, I mean, you got to root for the kid. And you look at yesterday, what a win. I mean, we were doing it live, Donnie, the show, the betcast. I think you and I were both shocked at the outcome because when you do the betcast, especially late in the betcast, we had a lot of people in there, Donnie. I mean, there were a lot of people watching that, and we were kind of doing a play-by-play, and it happened so quick. And, Donnie, the problem that we have with Donnie is ahead of all of us. So Donnie is calling the touchdown as we're about to see it. So, it all happens, and I then go back and look after we get off the air, and we failed to even mention, Donnie, the fact of just the hideous, heinous attempt by Marcus Williams to try to tackle not Sammy Diggs, Stephon Diggs. What was that? And who I don't. What was that guy trying to do there? What was that technique? Because I've never seen it before. Listen, I don't want to pile on the kid too much, but listen, I mean, your job is to make tackles and knock the football down. You did neither of those, and you cost your team a shot to the Super Bowl, or a shot at the next round to go to the Super Bowl. What on earth? What happened in the last 30 seconds of that game? What a game!
Yeah, Jeff, you know what the worst part about that was if you're New Orleans? What happened before that play, Jeff? New Orleans called timeout to make sure everybody was on the same page.
Right.
You knew what was coming.
Right.
You knew they couldn't throw over the middle. You knew they couldn't throw a 10-yard out because it made no sense. They had to go for something deep down the sideline. And, Jeff, to be honest with you, the defense was perfect. They were aligned absolutely perfect where the safety was free, where Diggs went up maybe, what was he, Jeff, about maybe 5 to 10 yards inside of the out of bounds, like between the numbers and out of bounds. He jumps up and makes the catch. The safety was perfect. Yep, Jeff, he catches him right there and just tackles him, and they both fall to the ground. The game harmlessly is over. It's over. They win the game.
Yeah. He was worried about pass interference. I don't know if you know this, but it wasn't in the end zone. It would have been right there. That would have been where the pass interference was. Would you maybe given up a field goal at that point? No, I don't think you would have, because there wasn't any time left. I don't think there was very little time.
If it was pass interference, there would have been time left because he caught the ball with about 3 seconds to go.
But either way, Donnie, you don't allow him to just get. I mean, maybe he misses the field goal, or maybe you block it, maybe anything. It's a hideous. We cannot make excuses for this guy. Is it sad that it happened to a rookie? Sure, but this all goes back to form and wrapping up, and some of these kids and just not being able to tackle. That was a horrible decision that cost them the game. And do we say one play cost them the game? Not always, but I think in this case you do. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, he makes that tackle, the game's over. Probably. It just can't happen.
Yes,
I mean,
game is over.
And they're not going to throw.
He's not getting out of bounds. He's not like.
And they're not
just came because. You're basically instructed where you're going to play almost like a sideline defense, where you have your corners run down the numbers to say, look, you can throw it in the middle of the football field. We'll just rally to the football, and we'll tackle you at the 10-yard line right in the middle of the field, and the game's over. Your only prayer was to run that route. They knew it was coming, was defended perfectly, and it almost looked like saying like the same. I don't know. Like, I've never seen a defender who – it wasn't even like a move. You know, Jeff, if he would have caught the ball at the 40-yard line and juked him, like, oh, Stephon Diggs is fast. He juked you. That's what you get. But Stephon Diggs had to go up and get that ball and was basically bracing for a hit and trying to get out of bounds and just was like, oh, my God, nobody touched me. Let me just turn around and run it in for a touchdown. It was one of those plays, Jeff, where you see it happening and you see the Minnesota guy. You don't know if it's Diggs yet, but just blares onto the screen purple, and you're going, who has the ball now? Is that an interception? Because it was so wide open because the guy missed the play. It was unbelievable. Like, I had to do a double take that Minnesota actually was on offense.
And the worst part about it was, they called the timeout right before the play. Everyone should have known what they were doing there. I don't know what that defense was. I guess you're just clearly trying to prevent anything. They're not going to throw across the middle. What are you trying to like stop there? I get they're not going to throw to the middle of the field. I mean, you're going to have someone there anyway, but they're not going to throw to the middle of the field. I mean, they had no timeouts. And you know what's interesting? That's a good point. That was a tackle attempt the punter makes. I think Morstead would have made a better attempt at tackling
with his rib injury, Jeff. With his rib injury.
That was an Olay tackle that cost them the game. And then I hear about in the locker room, the kid was all sad. And listen, that's your job, bro. You know, if I'm a heart surgeon and I go in there and I miss something, someone's dying, Donnie. I mean, if I'm a mechanic and I'm doing a car inspection and I forget to lock the tires on, somebody might die. Okay, you're going to have to come, you got to stand up and talk about this. I mean, the kid made a mistake. It's on him. It has nothing to do with anyone else. It's all about you, bro. You missed the tackle, and now you're going home.
Donnie, it was unbelievable to watch that live. Like, you had to do a double take. And the best part, Jeff, is we kept mocking Minnesota with the horn.
Yeah, and we can't mock them anymore, Donnie, because what's interesting about the game coming up this weekend in Philadelphia. Both of those teams are going to Minnesota probably. Depends on.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean,
Well, they have
Minnesota's
to.
going to have to go. Minnesota's going back home regardless. Question is it going to be because they lost, or is it because they're going to the Super Bowl? Might just be the Eagles, though, heading back there with them, Donnie.
Yeah, and again, let's go back to if we like conspiracy theories, like we think if that guy missed the tackle on purpose, Jeff, let's see the conspiracy theories of the Greater Chamber of Commerce of the Twin Cities here saying, hey, it's all fun if Minnesota gets to the Super Bowl, but we're going to lose a ton of money in the restaurants and the hotel chains if Minnesota does win this game, Jeff. What do you got? What, are you making phone calls?
No, I played the horn.
I didn't hear it.
But that wraps it up. NFL divisional round. We head into the conference championships. Sets up for a great weekend. Great Sunday of football coming up. Early game will be New England, Jacksonville. Late game, Philadelphia, Minnesota. Donnie, we move on. We'll talk all week about the games. I'm sure we'll break them down ad nauseum. But we have to recap things in college hoops. We move it down, Donnie, to basketball. And Donnie, I got to tell you, Big 12 is very good. Texas Tech is for real. That's a big time win over West Virginia over the weekend. I mean, I think this is what the Big 12 is. You're going to have teams battling all year. Does this hurt West Virginia? No. I mean, it's a top 10 loss. I still think West Virginia is among the best teams in the country. Issa and Med will come back and get acclimated into that group. But I have to shout out to the Red Raider fans. I know there's not a ton to do in Lubbock, but you can't storm the court as the number 8 team in the country. I mean, it's a little low class, Donnie. And then, I see a West Virginia players in the news because he hit one of them. Listen, I know court stormings are kind of normal and acceptable, but it's time to get away from them. I mean, they're too dangerous. You got people hitting each other. You got people hurting each other. People tripping or falling down. You got other fans. You got the team on the floor. It's too much, but a big win nonetheless for the Red Raiders. Chris Beard has done an absolutely exquisite job down there. Defensively, they're fantastic. Big 12 is a really, really good conference. Donnie, did you see this game? What'd you think?
I did not, but I know exactly about it there. People throwing left hooks and right hooks at fans after the game. They try to do away with that, Jeff, in college football and also college basketball. You actually fine the home team heavily if the crowd storms the field or, to try to keep them off the court. It was only a matter of time that this was going to happen. I mean, we've seen punches thrown LeGarrette Blount style where Oregon and Boise State in football, but it's very rare. Usually you get like some shoulders or you run over a guy on the court because you're just trying to get off the court and you're mad and you can play it off like, well, I was just trying to leave. I didn't mean to run the guy over, but you did. But very rare you see punches thrown, Jeff, from players with fans there.
And now West Virginia right back at it tonight against the Jayhawks. Michigan, Donnie, a gigantic win for John Beilein's program. And they beat a very overrated Michigan State team. A team that I've mentioned for weeks I don't think's that good. They're a solid basketball team, but are they the number 1 team in the country? No. I don't think they're a top 5 team in the country. The best team in the Big Ten is Purdue. And there's a whole host of other teams, including Ohio State and Michigan, that, Donnie, this Michigan team every year, I mean, they're really good at home, and they have a ton of experience. I know this new team might not, but they're always built the same way. I mean, they're pretty good defensively. They make their shots from the outside. They're nothing sexy. I mean, down low, they don't have a ton generally. But Wagner's really become a great player for this group. They're well coached. Beilein's among the best in the country. Does it the right way. And I got to be honest, it was nice to be vindicated for Michigan State because I don't think they're that good. I think for weeks they've been largely overrated. And a big win for Michigan. They get a big game tonight as well, back home against Maryland. But a solid win for this. This is a huge resume builder for Wolverines.
No, you're right about that. I mean, you want to say what you want about John Beilein. He always has his team prepared. That MO all the time, Jeff, was what do you say about Michigan? Sort of that softer team out there. They're going to run a lot of offensive sets, but you can beat them up down low. Wagner has been very good and has been very good for a couple years now. I always root for that Michigan team because I know, Jeff, they're going to come into each and every game prepared. That's a really nice win. And they went toe-to-toe with Michigan State, Jeff, and they were the physical team in this one.
Yeah, they were. Totally right with that. By the way, Donnie, we failed to mention, unfortunately, with the football, that disastrous beat on the Vikings, if you had them, at 5.5, not kicking the extra point. And then they unknowingly, go out and get all the teams and, bring them back on the field. Gene Steratore has to be by the book every fucking time. I mean, is it really necessary? I mean, was that really necessary?
Yeah, because the leagues are sent memos, or the teams are sent memos all the time that you have to play the game through and accordingly. Because if the Saints did not come out for that, there would have been hell to pay behind the scenes from the NFL and that. Not just for the gambling integrity, but just for the overall game. You have to play it out, and you can't cut corners in that instance. And I know they went back and said, "Hey, just give me 11." Like you even saw the punter Jeff Morstead with the bad rib coming back out onto the field. It was interesting because it took a while too, Jeff. I mean, you saw Minnesota out there. Case Keenum hyping up the crowd, doing the skull chant and having fun out there. It was at the point where they were just going to say, because if nobody was out there, I could see Keenum, as I just said in the chat box, saying, "You know what? Let's just line up. I'll snap it, and I'll just do a victory run into the end zone, and we'll just have fun with the 2-point conversion because they're not out here." You don't want to disrespect the Saints, because if the Saints come out of the locker room, just line up 7 people, you're just going to take the knee and get out of there. But if the Saints aren't going to come back onto the field, why not just snap the ball and throw it to a lineman so he gets a 2-point conversion? That would have been interesting.
Yeah, either way, though, they didn't do anything. They just snapped it and took a knee, which for a lot of people, that was irritating. But you had to basically go through 5 minutes of just wondering what exactly was going to happen. YouTube is the home of the Flat Earth and No Forests and Rig Sports. The Flat Earth thing isn't that hard to believe. I mean, there's actually a lot of proven commodities, Donnie, that the Earth is flat. Donnie, by the way, do you have any belief of that?
No, I do not have any belief.
Because there are a lot of things about the Earth that make it almost impossible for the world to be the way we think it looks. And according to Kyrie Irving, there's also, all I'm saying is, I'm not saying the world's flat, but it is interesting to read into. Donnie, we back to basketball quickly. Villanova escapes with a win, the number 1 team in the country. Shamari Pons wasn't having it, Donnie. 37 points. He tried. The unfortunate part about St. John's is I like this group. I think they play hard. They play great defense generally. They have a really good player in Pons. They just don't have anyone else that has stepped up. Levette's been injured. They don't have that second scoring option. And you look at in this game, Donnie, Pons scores 37. The rest of the starting 5, 7, 5, 6, 7. Not good enough. I mean, you need someone else. If you had someone else in that game, you may have been able to beat the Wildcats. But Villanova rides again. They'll be the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, Jeff, by the way, with Villanova, but maybe a certain red-headed, swingman guard listened into our betcast last week when I was pretty heavy on Dante DiVincenzo and showing up and playing wild and not having a very good night. Hey, look at that, 25 points up in the guard and a big spot comes through for Nova. Maybe he watched the betcast, Jeff.
He might have. I know he is local for the most part. So, yeah, maybe he did. Interestingly enough, obviously the chat box doesn't understand sarcasm whatsoever. That's the great thing about these chats. I mean, no one understands any sort of sarcasm. Donnie and I are very sarcastic. I don't know if some of you guys know that. I have people that hit me up and go, "Are you really going to ESPN?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not." But
don't believe a word I say unless I'm talking NFL. Yep, everything else is off.
Right. Anything that Donnie says, just want to take it, let it go 1 out of the year. But conspiracy theories are interesting, nonetheless.
I love them.
Yeah, exactly. One other thing, Donnie, Trae Young with yet another unbelievable game, and Donnie, I try to master watch. On YouTube, there's a guy that puts out all the games, most of the top 25 games you can watch over. And I sit and watch these Trae Young games, and I seemingly every game say to myself, how did he do that? The kid's unbelievable, man. I mean, he really is. I mean, just he reminds you so much of Steph Curry the way he plays. I mean, just everything about him is kind of almost the same. He makes these unbelievable layups and shots. He's just an amazing player. I rewatched the game, like I said, and I'm sitting there listening to the game, and they're talking about how there are scouts from the NBA there to scout Trae Young, and I guess one of the scout guys said he might be a lottery pick, and the color guy just goes nuts and just goes, that guy needs new notes. I don't know what he's doing as a scout. He goes, does he watch this guy? And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm like, you know what? That guy's totally right. How is he might be a lottery pick? How is he might be? He is a lottery pick, dude. I don't know what that's
he's got. He's got a lot of mixes in him. I mean, he has got some Iverson in him, Jeff, some Steph Curry, some hot sauce in him. I mean, he's fun to watch, man.
And he has no. His range is unlimited. He can shoot from anywhere. Amazing. 43 over the weekend, 43, 11, and 7. Amazing. Donnie, let's get into a couple college hoops predictions for tonight. Where are we going here on Big Monday? A lot of big games in the card.
Yeah, let's have some fun tonight, Jeff. Of course, we like to go over a couple of games, and I throw a curveball, the big man out there, and pick my own game. So we'll go over a couple here first. Let's go right down the rotation here for us, Jeff. 7:27, 7:28, Maryland and Michigan. Tonight, the game's going to tip off early today. It is Martin Luther King Day, 6:30 start, Jeff. 79% of those wagers coming in on the hometown Michigan Wolverines here over Maryland. Line opened up at 7, Jeff. Not any movement across the board here. I'm seeing 7s directly across. Pinnacle opens up with a total, Jeff, of 136. Chris opened up lower at 134. That line now sits, depending on where you're shopping, at 136 to 136 at half. Michigan off a big win. Jeff, Maryland off of getting their butt whipped. What's going to happen in this basketball game?
Yeah, last couple games, Maryland's had some trouble. Got by Iowa, but I mean they lost by 30 to Michigan State, lost by 22 to Ohio State. Yeah, they're struggling right now. They have a lot of players out right now. Mark Turgeon has not been able to replace them. I mean, now you got to go on the road and face a Michigan team that doesn't lose very often in Chrysler Center. I mean, this team is 37-8 over the last 3 years straight up at home. Question is, are you comfortable laying 7 points here as opposed to 1 or 2 or 3? Because at the end of the day, here's what you're going to need from Michigan. They're going to have to make their foul shots at the end of the game for you to cover this, most likely. Maryland shoots a good enough percentage from 3, a good enough percentage from the foul line, and a good enough percentage from the field. They're probably going to be in this game. I think they play good enough defense. They're not totally inept. If they're in this game, the problem that I have with Michigan is they're going to have to win by double digits, basically. I relate to Donnie a bit, and why I'm not going to bet this game. If this was 9 or 10, I would be on Maryland, just because I just think that's too many points. I took Illinois a couple weeks ago against Michigan, thought it was too many points. They ended up covering. I don't trust Michigan late because they do not make foul shots. I mean, at home this year, they're shooting 63.4% from the line. That is not good enough at all. If you don't make foul shots, Donnie, you do not win games. There's no clear picture, crystal clear. If you don't make them, you don't win. You don't cover. And in this kind of number, at this number, 7, you got to make your foul shots. And I just, unfortunately, don't trust them enough to do it. Again, though, will it matter? Maryland's really struggled to defend in conference play. Michigan could really just kind of come out here firing. But for me, I'm going to stay away from this game because with Michigan, I just don't want to lay a number like this because I don't trust them in late game situations.
All right, we'll keep it right in rotation, Jeff. Some interesting stuff just popped across my timeline here. Florida State, Boston College, 7:31, 7:32. Jeff, we know how sneaky Boston College can be playing at home here. Terrence Mann upgraded to probable now for Florida State. That line opened up at 3. Now seeing 3.5. Bovada just moved at -3.5 to -115 juice with some injury information there. 59% of those wagers, Jeff, are favoring the road team here with the Florida State Seminoles. As I said, the line currently sits at 3.5. Over under in this game, Jeff, Pinnacle opened up at at 154. Some increased movement here, 155, 155 and a half now showing up across the board for Florida State. Florida State heading north to play Boston College, Jeff. Looks like a low line to me, but then again, we know BC at home here is going to be a little bit of a tough out.
Yeah, but at home, in those games where they're upsetting teams, they're getting a lot more points. There's not a lot of wiggle room here. I mean, you're basically coin flipping this game. And with Terrence Mann back, Florida State's the play. I mean, like Boston College is a nice story. They played well at home, but they basically have to beat Florida State here. I mean, you got a couple points to play with, but I think with Mann back, I don't want to get in front of Florida State. I mean, they've been pretty good on the road as well. Been a lot better defensively this year. I like BC. This could be a close game, but I think Florida State with Mann has got to be the play. I didn't look a ton into this one just yet, but with Mann back, that means I'm more interested.
Yeah, interesting one, Jeff. Last one on the board here, 9 p.m. tonight. Probably the best game of the night for me to watch. 7:47, 7:48. Kansas and West Virginia. Two interesting stories here. Kansas coming off, just escaping at home at the Fog. 1,190 tickets have been tracked in this one already, Jeff. 60% are going to lean on Kansas. That's some good line movement here, Jeff. Opened up at 4, 4.5, probably depending on where you were shopping at. Now we're seeing 6.5 and 7s across the board in favor of Press Virginia with Bob Huggins. Over under, Jeff, opened at 157. Now you're seeing that pretty much across the board again at 157. Not a lot of movement there. What are we saying, Jeff? It's interesting to see Kansas getting just about 7 points when playing a major tilt here. Is West Virginia good enough to get the victory here, Jeff?
I think they are. I mean, obviously they play an interesting brand of defense. If they could turn Kansas over, if they could turn anyone over, they have the ability to win and cover games. But listen, I think you hit the nail on the head, Donnie. I mean, when I'm getting 7 points with Kansas, look, if I go in and lose that game and they win by 9, okay, salud, you got me. But when I can get Kansas in this profile, I mean, Kansas has been very good on the road to the number this year, 3-1. I mean, they're 16-9 over the last 25. They get the job done. You're getting a lot of points here. I think Kansas can win the game, so of course I'm going to take the 7 points. But I do need to see an improved defensive, game from them. I mean, this team has not been good lately on the defensive end. But one thing I love about the Jayhawks is they defend for the most part without fouling. And a major problem that this West Virginia team has is they put way too many people in the foul line. I mean, they're fouling 21 times a game. That's a lot. And it's something that for Kansas, I don't know that they're going to need a ton to stay in this game. They're just really good, and they can stay in the game because they're really good. But this is going to aid them staying in this game and maybe give them a real shot, to win it. I would take the 7 points here. This will be a big public side, though. I mean, it's hard for me to justify betting this game. But you look at last year, they played West Virginia, lost one game, 85-69 in Morgantown. The return won 84-80 in overtime. So, yeah, I would lean with the 7, but I'm going to tell you right now, I think this will be a big public side. I really do. I think people will look at it the way all of us are, and they should cover, though. 7's a lot of points. That's, you basically are going to need West Virginia to pull away and win, 89-80. And I don't know that I can see that. With the way Kansas can shoot the basketball at every wavelength, these are really hard numbers to cover.
I would tend to agree with you that also, Jeff. A couple minutes left here in the show. It's that time again, Jeff. We slide it down to the TV classic of the day. Going down memory lane here, Jeff. What's on tap for us here with some memories?
Yeah, we do the TV episode of the day, kind of reliving one of our favorite episodes from a variety of different shows. And we haven't done a variety. We've only done Sopranos so far. But today we're going to switch it up, Donnie, and head over to season 6 of Entourage. Some people have seen Entourage. Most people have seen Entourage. I would largely recommend watching it. Is it as to the high level of The Wire, Sopranos? No, but it's very good TV. It's good storylines. It's interesting. It takes you into a life of, just 4 friends that, are trying to live in LA and live with money and things like that. But we go to this episode, Donnie, episode 5. It was titled 4! Basically 4 in like, golf terms. Do you remember this episode, Donnie? Basically, Vince and Drama take on Tom Brady and Mark Wahlberg in like this celebrity golf outing, basically Johnny decides that, as always, he's going to be serious about it, and he's going to go in thinking that we're going to play for money, basically. And little does he know, as always, he's a shitty golfer, and Mark Wahlberg and Tom Brady are really good golfers. So, the episodes basically centers around him absolutely being horrible at golf, and Turtle's hate and disdain for Tom Brady because he's a Giant fan. But then by the end of the episode, Turtle starts to like Tom Brady because he knows his girlfriend at the time. And do you remember this episode, Donnie?
Vaguely, I do. Vaguely, I do. Yes.
Yeah, and then by the end of the episode, Johnny Drama is so annoyed that he asked Tom Brady if he could use his club. And when you golf, it's not about the club, it's about the person that swings the club. So he swings the club and he misses, and he gets the club and starts bashing it into the ground, and he forgets that it's Tom Brady's club. And it's one of those episodes, and that's what's great about Entourage. You can almost watch it, and you don't have to necessarily watch the whole series to understand it. One of my favorite episodes of the show. Again, it's mindless. It's not a top 5 show for me ever, but it was always very well written, very good for the most part. What was your opinion of Entourage, Donnie? You liked it, right?
I loved it. It was great. Like HBO does very good, 2 things very good, very good. They have the series like The Sopranos, The Wire, great writing there, hard hitting, anticipation. Sure. You have to watch every single week. And they do great 30-minute shows on mindless TV. It's the same genre of Ballers and Entourage. I get a kick out of it because I know going into it, Jeff, I'm just going to sit back, watch, get a couple laughs at it. And before you know it, it's over. It doesn't drag on too long. Entourage was great at that, Jeff.
Yeah, no, they do a great job with that. That's it, though. We got to go. Show's over. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll get into some of the conference championship breakdowns. College hoops, Donnie. Kind of from here on out, we obviously do have the other playoff games as well, though.
Yep.
We'll get into all those. I'll be on a little bit later with some soccer stuff. Check out for that around, I think it's 3:00. Other than that, Donnie, we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.